you've come across something like this before, it's unlikely to look like something out of an adventure movie, but it's real. The Ethiopian Bible is one of the most enigmatic and debated books in existence. Even the country itself is shrouded in inexplicable mysteries, but that's a story for another time. Ethiopia is the birthplace of one of the world's oldest civilizations, and is the only country in Africa to escape colonization that allows them to track its lineage until ancient times, even being associates. The descendants of one of Noah's sons. Although there is controversy, historical records strongly suggest this connection. However, the focus is not just the country itself, but the treasure it holds. The ancient parchments of the Bible found in Ethiopia are older than the versions, better known as the King James Bible, with its 88 books. The Ethiopian Bible includes works that other Christian traditions do not record. It contains both Old Testament and New Testament texts, as well as previously unpublished scrolls. What makes this even more fascinating is that these scrolls have existed long before Christianity was officially practiced in the region. While Christianity spread throughout the world, it has already been rooted in Ethiopia since the 4th century. Travelers and ancient historians witnessing the Christian presence in Ethiopia since ancient times. Evidence suggests that for more than 3,500 years certain Ethiopian tribes worshipped the Christian God. For centuries, Ethiopia welcomed Christian refugees, offering them a safe home in times of religious persecution in other parts of the world. This is just a glimpse of the rich and complex religious history of this unique country, the oldest organized Christian body in the world. But before continuing with the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video and leave your like. It's very important for the channel, so let's go. It is not the Catholic ministry as many may think, but rather the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, known locally as TER in Ethiopia. This country is also home to one of the first illustrated Christian books ever found, part of the Gospels written in Jess, an ancient Ethiopian language. In 2010, it was discovered in a mountaintop monastery in Ethiopia. According to tradition, dating back to the 10th century BC, an Ethiopian ruler and famous biblical queen. From Sheba they traveled to Jerusalem to seek advice from King Solomon, as recorded in the accepted canon of the Bible. However, the biblical account does not mention that the two rulers had a son named Menelik. Queen Sheba reportedly took the boy back to Ethiopia, where he became the first emperor. In 2012, genetic analyses carried out on Ethiopians found evidence that suggests a link, with possible mixtures, with Egyptian, Israelite, or Syrian people. About 3,000 years ago, this coincides with the period in which the queen is said to have ruled the kingdom of Sheba, further strengthening the story. Despite its rich history and damage, the Ethiopian Bible is not recognized as part of the canon of sacred books and is generally unknown to most people, including many followers of the same faith. This highlights the effort to discredit and hide the Ethiopian Bible over time. Today we understand that the Bible was not like knowing it now. There were different versions and interpretations reflecting the different understandings and ideas about its content. Initially written in Hebrew, the biblical texts were translated into several languages over the centuries. One of the first translations was made by Saint Jerome, who converted the Hebrew text into Latin, resulting in the Vulgate around the year 400. The Vulgate, with its 27 books of the New Testament and 39 of the Old Testament, became the main Latin version of the Bible. However, in the 1st century, many other writings about the life and teachings of Jesus appeared. Many of these writings were fiction, similar to novels or fanfics based on the life of Jesus. The problem arose when these texts were made available to the public, causing some people to believe that they were real reporting without the digital verification capabilities we have today. Fake news spread quickly, resulting in a large amount of fake books and confusion among people. The damage caused by this spread of inaccurate information was important. This concern became central to the leaders of the early Christian church, who met at the Council of Nicaea in AD 325 and the First Council of Constantinople in AD 381 to determine which books would be included in the New Testament. Established strict criteria: a book would be considered sacred if it was written by one of Jesus' followers or by someone who witnessed his teachings. Furthermore, the text must have been written in the 1st century and be in harmony with the rest of the Bible. Throughout the centuries, the Bible Sagrada underwent several changes, but one of the most significant occurred during the reign of King James Primer. After 500 years of the Vulgate, there were still several conflicting versions and interpretations of the Bible. This worried the monarch, who wanted a unified version of the Bible to resolve religious differences and consolidate his power. Meeting these concerns, King James I hired 47 experts to review all the different Bible translations. Divided into 6 groups, these experts worked independently for 7 years, following strict rules to avoid any bias, using various tools to produce a translation faithful to the original languages. The result was a scientific Bible that reflected the consensus of experts and was in accordance with the established criteria. Despite being geographically, they celebrated approval by attributing glory to God for guiding them to the same conclusion. In 1611, the King James Bible was published, and thanks to advances in printing, it became one of the most accessible versions until then. However, edits made to the King James Bible and the original Vulgate translation by St. Jerome resulted in the exclusion of some books that most Christians today have. The Ethiopian Bible retains all the scriptures. Now that we have briefly explored the history of the Bible, it is time to address why the Ethiopian Bible was rejected. There are several reasons for this, but the main one is the inclusion of additional books known as pseudo-epigraphs. These are texts falsely attributed to authors who are not their true writers, or whose authors have been identified as figures from the past. Texts are considered non-canonical by most Christian traditions. These books were excluded from the canon. For example, if you wrote a book denying those of Pele as an athlete, it would be rejected due to its falsehood. However, over time these stories can become part of popular belief, hence the importance of eradicating them. Right now the Ethiopian Bible has 2 canons, the broad and the narrow. Before exploring this, it is important to define what a canon is. A canon is a generally accepted principle or criteria by which something is judged. For example, it is a canon. Have a screen. A country has a president, and a channel has more subscribers. In the religious context, a canon refers to the collection of texts considered authoritative or sacred by a religious community. The Ethiopian Bible has 2 distinct canons, the broader and the narrower. The widely recognized broader canon consists of 81 books, including works such as Enoch, the Jubilee, the 3 books of Mabes, the Epistle to Clemente, the 4 code books, among others. This is the main focus of the video, for it is the best known canon. On the other hand, the narrowest canon, it was established by Emperor Haile Selassie. He proclaimed this version as official and complete of the Bible Ethiopia. Although he cannot provide details on the reason behind this decision, I suggest please do your own research to better understand. This restricted version of the canon contains only 72 books, excluding some scriptures found in the broader version. It is important to note that the broader canon has not been reprinted since the early 20th century. The existence of 2 different versions of the canon contributes to the controversy and may have been a factor in the widespread non-acceptance of the Bible and the Bible, contrary to popular belief. It is not just a book, but a collection of texts and experiences written over many years. This diversity is where challenges and questions arise around its interpretation and acceptance. Different religious groups, including recognized and accepted ones, have a long history of including or excluding different texts or copies based on personal theological foundations. For example, the Bible as we know it. Today it was mainly compiled in the centuries, and at that time Christianity in Ethiopia was already beginning to diverge from Christianity in Europe and the Mediterranean, and this difference persists to this day. The Ethiopian Bible has many similarities with the Catholic and Orthodox versions. Although it includes some extra books of the Old Testament, these additional books were probably written in the last centuries before Christ, at the end of the time of the books of Old Testament, but before the beginning of the New Testament. Additionally, additional books were added to the end of the New Testament, especially related to the history and structure of the Ethiopian Church. Another reason for the rejection of the Ethiopian Bible may be the language in which it is written makes access difficult for non-speakers. Furthermore, the lack of translations and the unique practices of the Ethiopian Bible contributed to its relative obscurity outside Ethiopia. A more controversial reason is politics. In the early days of Christianity, political power was a concern. Central to the Roman Empire, there was little spiritual growth, and any scrolls that did not line up with the preferred story were left out. In fact, the Bishop of Rome instructed priests to destroy scrolls that were not in the Bible. However, many priests hid them in caves nearby of the Dead Sea. In the 1940s, explaining the differences between the two Bibles. In recent years, there has been an increase in interest in the Ethiopian Bible, with people seeking to discover what makes it special and the truth it contains. Churches have also worked to make it more accessible by translating it into more languages and conducting academic studies on it. It is impressive that this Bible has survived so long, especially after attacks and fires, further increasing the mystery surrounding it. If you liked this video, share it with your family, friends, and subscribe to my channel. May God bless you mightily. I'll wait for you in the next video. A big hug.